What's up, y'all, and welcome back to the Michael Experience Podcast. I am your orator and originator, Michael, and these are my thoughts on my life, my way. So, in the last episode, we talked about rose colored glasses and being love laced. And the rose colored glasses have been around for a long time. It's probably the more prevalent term or phrase that you've heard of. But love laced is a really intricate or interesting thing, too, that really is about sometimes when you think about being laced, you think about other things that get you high, that get your, dopamine going. So love laced is just really what it sounds like. Love has got you on such a emotional and mental high that sometimes you can't see clearly. And so pair that with the rose colored glasses and your vision is looking very hazy. So a lot of that hinges on what your wants sometimes needs, but your desires are and how driven you are to those things. And so I wanted to introduce this notion of you're a catch and it should be easy for you to find the right partner. I want to talk about that because I've been in conversation with people, and a lot of men, women, they, them, everybody is like, I just don't understand why you are single. And at the core of that statement, I get it, right? I do. Most people view me as a very attractive man. People, perceive me as a man of means and, personality and just all of the things that would make you a good candidate for anybody's husband or should seemingly. But my response continuously is that none of that really matters. None of that really matters to people when the connection just isn't what you want it to be. And that could be a myriad of things. But I want to kind of start with this idea of what perfection is. First of all, I will contend that perfection or perfect isn't something that you find, it's something that you create. And so when people are striving to have this look or are striving to have this feeling or lifestyle, it's not something you just happen upon. It is something that you carefully curate, you put energy into it, and you create it. However, when it comes to meeting people, getting to know people, and trying to find depth in those interactions, I think a lot of us have a misnomer about perfection, and that is that we're just going to find the person, and everything is just going to fall into place, and it's just going to be like magic. And that truly isn't it. The perfection that you find in the person or the perfect person is really in your ability to be a part of said person. And so that is the thing that changes the I hate this or I thought I never would into I love it and I'm glad that I did. You know what I mean? Perfection is flipping everything on its head and working towards something probably completely different than what you were taught or what you may have known. And the reasons that people feel that way are very wide. It could be that a person taps into your mental in a way that they never have. It could be that you are just physically and emotionally stimulated by that person and that is just so new. Or even if it isn't new, that person has taken that existing feeling or notion that you have and just has blown it wide open. And so when I think about perfection and I think about people that have this checklist and they're like, well, he's not this or she's not that. When you finally find the person, I will contend that most of the time that checklist you had, they don't meet probably half of those things on there. However, they made you feel some type of way. They touched your heart, they touched your mind, they touched your body in some kind of a way where you said, maybe I need to rethink this. And all of those things that you once thought were important are now kind of left by the wayside and seen for what they really are, which is really trivial and superficial mostly. you can curate whatever kind of life you want with somebody, and that doesn't mean that both of you are coming in the door already prefixed and everything is already ready to go. The beauty isn't walking into finding it already there where you didn't put any work, any effort, in any emotions, or really anything into it. The beauty isn't that. The beauty is when you work hard and you put your love and you put your care, you put your trust in it, and you see the rewards, of your labor. That is where the real perfection happens. Perfection isn't just showing up and finding. Perfection is going along and creating as you do. And so when people say I found him or her and I knew they were the one, they're not telling you that they walked in and the man or woman was everything that they ever dreamed of at the beginning. What they're telling you is it was something about them that when I did see them, I knew that they would be the one to help me curate, create, and cultivate this situation. That is typically what it is, because there is no reward without a risk, and getting to know people and opening yourself up definitely takes that, in my opinion. So this idea sometimes when people are like, you just seem like you would be the perfect this or the perfect that. Again, it just depends what somebody else really wants and what their desires are, right? On paper, you could have all the things, but in person, maybe you are gorgeous, but you lack charisma. Maybe you are gorgeous, but the person wants somebody more spontaneous. Maybe you are gorgeous, but the person wants more affection, or they want a certain type of conversation, things, vibes, as people say. And that's a part of chemistry. I was going to say and have chemistry, but chemistry is so broad that it encompasses more than just conversation, sex, and all of that stuff. Chemistry is kind of like that catch-all thing, right? From the way that somebody thinks, from the way that you guys hold hands, from the way that you cuddle, from the wrinkle in your eye or the curl of your lip, or whatever that may be that makes you you, and the other person is just in admiration of it. Chemistry is all of those things in the dynamic working at play. And so there are times where I think you can miss them if you prematurely, kind of gloss over it and look too quickly, or you have an unrealistic expectation or want. You can miss some of that chemistry, but it really truly depends on the person. Everything is very individual. I know some people try to do a one size fits, but that just doesn't work. In a sea of many, you know, people just move differently, and we just have to respect that. So I get what people are saying when they're like, you just seem like you would be a great catch. You seem like you would be perfect. And yeah, I probably will for the right person. And even with all of that in mind, there's going to be someone that I meet that's going to want to go further, faster. They're going to want to go higher and harder and all of these things. And I still have to be ready and willing to do those things, and that person has to be willing. If I'm resistant in some way or I'm not as apt to do it, they have to be willing as well. And so that's where you find the perfection, where the person says, "Listen, I'm probably at a 10 right now. Let me come down to an 8 so I can pull you up. But we're gonna get to that 10 together, and then when we get there, we're gonna get to 20." Okay, so that is the creating perfection part for me. The other thing in that is oftentimes I have these conversations and I'm like, where do you think I'm going to meet these perfect people? Because I ask myself all the time, where am I going to meet these perfect people? And like Janet Jackson, maybe we'll meet in a bar. He'll drive a funky car. I'll be the boy of his dreams. Maybe. I don't know. I really don't know. But in my life, I don't know that I've met a lot of people in the old fashioned or, organic way. I don't know that that's happened a lot in my life. I think I've met one person and we didn't date very long through a friend, well, my friend and his family member. And I think everybody else kind of was non traditional. I mean, I might have met him on Facebook or Facebook dating in recent years, on Jacked, on well, that's really the only one I really got on Facebook dating and Jack. Well, I might have met somebody on there, but I haven't really met people the old fashioned way. And I think all of my recent relationships were a vestige of social media. You know, my ex of 5 years, I met him doing lives on Facebook. The one I had before that, we were having a sexuation ship. I just made that up. A sex ship, a sexuation ship. I don't know. Heck, you get where I'm going with it. I met him doing that off of an app, and then we ended up dating. And before that, I don't know. I can't remember. Oh, I do remember. We date. Me and that gentleman dated shortly. We met at a party, and then years later we ran into each other, and then we just were spending time with one another. So I mean, I guess that one kind of counts, but it was very short lived. It was a summertime situation, and we ended up breaking up because he was just kind of immature and wasn't ready. So, but that is honestly those last few relationships are the only ones that I really remember, and a couple of situationships in between there, but most of them were off of an app. So I've not met many people the traditional way. And I know some people are like, well, go to church. And I say to people, I'm not going to church. Like, not to meet no man. I'm sorry, but it's just not going to happen. I feel like church people are some of the worst offenders when it comes to romance and dating. And I'm not talking about the people that just casually go to absolve themselves of their Saturday night, activities, and do the walk of shame on Sunday and with one finger up, hoping the pastor don't see him or smell the Jezebel spirit from the night before. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about those bona fide Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday night revival kind of people who really just take, a religious affiliation a little too far, in my opinion. And that is those choir director men, that is those assistant pastors, some pastors. They are just very hard to try to date, in a romantic sense, because there's so much confliction happening in my experience. Too much confliction happening. Like, there's some of the most deviant people when it comes to doing the nasty stuff, right? The sexual stuff, the adult stuff. They're very deviant with that, and sometimes that can be damn good. But then the after, or the remorse after, leads them to act and say like really crazy things at times. And I'm like, I don't want to be in a situation with somebody where there's some push and pull like that. I also am not in a space where I'm hiding who I am. And I know vestiges of a lot, not all, but a good portion of those people that are in the church is like hiding or suppressing it. And even there's that quotient of people who are like, I've been changed. And the church is saying, yeah, we know God still got his hand on you because you've been changed. And all the while, ain't shit changed about them. They're in the back of these clubs, fucking in and out and behind curtains, cheap curtains behind that. They're at these late night, early morning after sets doing group orgies and just all kinds of things that us civilized people wouldn't do. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that this is all, again, this is just in my experience, in my observation, what happens. And then they go right back to the thing and repent and feel bad about themselves. And I just do not want that kind of headache. So, no, I'm not going to the church looking to meet no man. I'm just not going to do it. Okay. And then some people are like, well, you might be in the grocery store one day and then you'll bump into somebody. Now, listen, I love a good Hallmark and Lifetime special. I really do. But I do believe the likelihood of running into somebody at the grocery store is very, very low and very less likely to happen. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to count it out. And I always try to keep my eyes open at the grocery store, because what I will say is, usually when I'm looking a mess somewhere, if somebody does approach me, I'm usually looking a mess. I ain't got no haircut. My face hasn't been shaved. I got my glasses on, not even the cute pair. my everyday in the car pair of glasses and stuff like that. I ain't got on no drawers, but hey, that typically is a bright spot and a selling point for people because oh, Mandingo, just flopping around in my shorts or my sweats or whatever. That's typically what I'm shopping in or whatever. So I mean, that might be a helpful tool, but I don't do it on purpose. I need to be comfortable. So the likelihood again of that happening seems very, very low. And the few times maybe somebody did approach, it wasn't in like any real meaningful capacity. It might have been just like a, hey, how you doing kind of situation. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. And then they just left it there. But I've never had anybody like carry through, like, can I have your phone number? Like, I would love to meet up with you and have coffee. Or I would love to meet up with you and just go to a light lunch or brunch somewhere. Well, we ain't got to go to no brunch situation because that'd be a little too chaotic sometimes. But you get where I'm going. Like, let's have an intimate setting to get to know each other outside of this. I've not had that happen ever. I've never had that happen in person. And so when I think about the ways in which I'm going to find somebody, I'm like, I might just die a old maid. I might just die a old maid because I don't know that I can. I'm not gonna rule it out. I'm kind of open to everything. Because the same people that are at the church typically are at the club, and the same people at the club are the same people that shop at Whole Foods and the gyms, and I would say about 80% they're the same people. But I do know that there is a quotient of us, a large number of us who are of a particular age, 40 ish and above, who don't really go anywhere outside of our normal day to day. Like, we don't go anywhere, we don't go to social gatherings. We may go to clubs. Like, I'll go when I'm asked to go out. And sometimes even then I say no. I said just to my friend recently today, I said, no, I'm not going. I don't want to go. You can't make me go, and I didn't go. But again, I'm not saying that I won't meet a man at the club, but I think it's a low probability that I will meet my man that I'm meant to be with at the club. And I've been at the clubs before, and I don't know that I've ever taken anybody home from the club, that I just met. Oh, I take that back. I take that back. I did meet a guy. I did meet a guy at a club years ago. Damn. Well, one time, okay, one time is not unequivocal proof that it can happen, but it did happen one time. Dang, I'll never forget it. Okay. Anyway, moving on because that's besides the point. I don't know, and he wasn't my man at the end of the day. He said he wasn't ready for anything serious. He just wanted to get his back blown out every day, which was fine at the time. But I mean, for a time. Listen, we moving on. So, anywho, I don't know that that will happen because that hasn't been the consistent theme in my life. Um, and I just don't know where it will happen. Again, every now and again, I go to the club for an hour or so. I go to the grocery store. Every now and again, I hit the mall. Not as much as I used to. It's probably a good thing for my wallet, but not as much as I used to. But I mean, I am probably in that category of people who is like, I want somebody, I want them, and I'm gonna sit in the house and they're gonna come to my door and deliver a package, and we're gonna fall madly in love, and we're gonna adopt some schnoodles or whatever the hell they are, them pretty poodle mixed dogs. I don't know what they are, but it's a schnoodle. It sounds good to me. A schnauzer and a poodle. I like schnauzers, and the other gays like poodles. I think I've been seeing them with them poodles. But in my mind, that's the only way that it is going to happen. So somebody's going to deliver my package. Maybe I'll bump into somebody at the club that's like, I don't normally go here. My friend forced me to come out, and you look like a safe space. That could be a possibility because I think I kind of like the odd guys. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of like the odd guys out that don't look like they should be in the club because I'm probably the same way. I'm kind of looking around like, why am I here? Like, you drug me out of here. My friend is constantly like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. Are you sure you're okay? You got a headache? And I'm like, you're my headache right now, motherfucker. But, no, I'm okay. But really, I just want to go home and crawl back into bed. So, like minded people would probably be the people that I notice and gravitate towards. But I don't know. I don't know if that's realistic or not. And I keep telling myself, perhaps I will get out and go to like a bingo night, or perhaps I'll go to a book club or something like that. But I'm like, am I really interested in that shit? Hell no. Like, imagine me showing up to a book club and they're reading fucking J.K. Rowling or something. Now, I like the Harry Potter stuff when I watched it on TV, but I really ain't finna sit around a bunch of people wearing wizard hats and sticks that they picked up off the ground talking about expecto patronum. I just want you to pour my patron up. I don't really drink it no more, but if that's all you got, I'm good with it. So I don't know that I'm willing to fake the funk. You know what I mean? Because then, Tabitha Brown said something when she was doing In Real Life with Angie Martinez. She said, "My mother told me don't start something if you don't want to maintain it." And I thought that that was just such a powerful statement. I was like, that is right. Don't start nothing that you don't want to maintain. And I don't want to start that shit with them hats and cats and whatever else they got. And I know damn well I'm not going to maintain it afterwards. And I get that, people can have their own things or whatever, and I'm here to support my man in whatever he want to do. You feel what I'm saying? Baby, listen here. If you want to cast a love spell on me, just do it, baby. Pull the blanket back one time, okay, to pull that motherfucker out, twirl it around in a circle 3 times, jump in the middle of my legs, baby, and let's make some magic. You feel what I'm saying? I don't have any problem with that. Okay, come on over here and put a spell on me, you sorceress, you. I don't, it doesn't bother me to do that, but to think I'm going to do it all day, every day, it ain't going to happen. But I'm going to love you while you do it. I'm going to love you while you do it. The same thing with anime and things like that. I love that. I mean, I remember seeing a guy and he was all into it. And I was like, look at him being passionate over there. Look at him being passionate over there. And he was an introvert, which I'm an introvert too. Well, I'm actually an ambivert. If y'all don't know what an ambivert is, that is a person that displays both introvert and extrovert tendencies. It's just depending on my mood, to be truthfully honest. But most of the time, I just want to crawl into a corner and just vibe to some good music. And I don't want people to say too much to me. That's just how I am. But he was a very shy introvert, and even when we would hang out, he would be uh very like gentle, but very like not wanting to like cause too much, you know uh uh commotion or anything like that. I was like, oh, that's really sweet, but I'm gonna need you to speak your mind at some point. You know what I'm saying? All that soft and cute shit is wonderful, and it's that shit's for puppies, okay? And I love me a good puppy, but I need you to open up your mouth because I ain't about to keep asking you no questions, sir. But I mean, when he was in his anime world, he was all into it or whatever, real passionate, very like, no, because and I'm like, oh, if only you would have said that about dinner, we wouldn't be here looking crazy now, would we? So I enjoyed kind of getting to know his world a little bit, but I mean, ultimately we didn't end up being together because there were other things that I learned about him that I was just like, sir, this is just not gonna work. Now, I'm not saying that this is for all the anime people or the shy introvert people, but his hygiene was not up to par. After spending a couple of times with him, I was like, wait a minute. I don't know that I've seen a toothbrush and some toothpaste since I've been here. And that's a flag on the play. I'm like, wait a minute, I'd have spent the night or whatever. I'd have brought my own toothbrush. I don't know if I'd have seen one from him. You go in there in the bathroom and his toothbrush and turn to stone. It's been sitting there so long. I'm like, damn, you can't even, you got to crack that motherfucker open like a crab leg boil. So I was like, oh, dear God, no. And then I noticed other things and I was like, yeah, I probably don't want to peel, the skin back on that meat and do nothing with it. Even if I thought about it, I don't want to do it. It's probably sour than a motherfucker in there. Okay, sour feet and sour. So I ultimately was like, okay, let me go ahead on and step away from this situation. But I really love that he was passionate about that. I just wish he would have spoke up a little bit more. But that's neither here nor there. So I don't know where I am going to meet my partner. I don't. I have opened up myself to the universe for it to just be whenever it's supposed to be. I'll be guided somewhere at the right time, and maybe that'll happen. But I don't have a lot of places that I go. I go to the movies a lot. I love going to the movies. So I will see 2 or 3 movies in a day sometimes because movies have always been a wonderful escape for me, and cinema just takes me somewhere. So, I mean, if there is a theater, movie theater, or just like a play, like where they do plays, you can probably find me in that in the arts area because I love that. But other than that, I don't know, and I don't know where you should meet them either because hell, it ain't working nowhere else. So I don't know. We'll find our people when we're supposed to find them. Amen. So the other thing I will say and expound on, because I touched on it a little bit earlier in the show, is that wants differ, and that's okay too. Wants sometimes just differ than what the person wants, and so I'm going to tell you guys a story. I met this younger guy on, I believe we met on Facebook dating. Younger guy, very, very attractive. And I'm just saying younger. I might as well just say his age. He was 27. I'm 35 or 6 at the time. 36. No, 37. I'm 37 at the time. And, he's kind of feeling me. I'm feeling him. I think the man is just stunning, like really, really stunning. He's more feminine than I am, which I ain't got no problem with. I kind of like the softness of it all, at least I've been used to it. And so I loved our conversations. I kind of loved that he was doing his own thing, very, very driven, very much like I've got a plan for my life and all of those things. But somewhere along the lines, things started to unravel. And for me, I was like, oh, we are stepping into exit territory. And so, although I enjoyed most of the conversations that we did have, because I do feel like they were quality conversations most of the time, and then I do feel like in between his schedule, he made an effort, to reach out to me, even if it was just like for 5 minutes, or even if it was like a little 10-minute conversation. He's like, "Hey, I'm going, to dinner with my friends, but I just wanted to talk to you before I go. If you go to sleep, like have a good day." And stuff like that. And he might text me during his thing a couple of times. But he always was doing stuff like that, which I really, really appreciated and stuff. He's like, okay, I gotta go, like, but I'll call you later or I'll text you later. So I mean, I really love the fact that he communicated with me because as a thinker and a communicator, there's nothing more that warms my heart than the fact that you just let me know that you thought of me and that you just communicate with me. Now you ain't gotta text me every hour on the hour, but I so appreciate somebody who's like, yo, I'm thinking. I know that you're thinking of me. That's a very big thing for me. It's like I need to know that you're thinking of me in some way. And he did that. However, as we were kind of moving through our dynamic, one of the first things that stood out to me was that he would not commit to when we would see each other. So I was in Baltimore at the time. He was in North Carolina somewhere. And after probably, I want to say like a month of us getting to know each other, close to that month mark, I was like, hey, like, I think we both have the means. I'm pretty sure we both had the means. I was like, would you want to see each other and stuff like that? We talked about what that would look like. If he came here, if he came where I was, he'd stay in a hotel. If I came there, of course, I would be willing to stay in a hotel as well. It would really be nothing because I'm not on anything sexual or whatever. I mean, the man was fine to me, just, mind, body, and everything else. I'm sure that this sexual tension could have been there, and I was celibate at the time. So I'm sure it probably would have been there if we got close to each other. But I mean, if we're saying we're staying away from that, I don't have a problem either way. I'm so grown. I'm so mature. I keep saying I'm replacing grown with mature. I'm so mature that like if it did happen, I wouldn't look at it any kind of a way. I know that there are a lot of people that are like, "Oh my God, if we have sex too soon, that's going to ruin things." I'm so mature that that doesn't even matter. In my mind, if we're going to be together, we're going to be together. If we like each other's personality, if we like each other's company, whatever it's going to be, it's the inevitable. Like whether we do it 3 days, we do it in 3 months or 3 years, at some point it's inevitable that we are going to lock legs and stuff like that and get to doing it. So I have no problems if it happens organically or whatever. Now, if we get to, getting like, I don't mind a couple of innuendos. I don't mind like some sensual, text videos, stuff like that. I said sensual, not raunchy. If it gets a little too raunchy and you're sitting there with your whole fist up your ass or something like that, I'm not gonna be able to do it. I'm gonna be like, yeah, you're a little too freaked out for me, player. Or you didn't send me a video of somebody else running you, sending me videos of you running five men in and out of your behind. That is a little bit too much for me. Or if you running up in five or six dudes behind because you want to show me your work, I'm like, yes, sir. I don't recruit for OnlyFans or fans only, so I ain't gonna be able to do you either, player. But listen here, you look like you have lived a life. You have lived a life. But I'm okay with the sensual stuff. Maybe, you're just doing something sexy in your robe, or, yeah, I don't, that stuff to me is okay. To me, that's like the warm up. It's like, ooh, that's the warm up and stuff like that. And if it just happens in person, it happens. We ain't gotta, but again, I respect the fact that he was like, hotels, both of us, so we can do it, the right way and stuff. What he could consider the right way. What was the right way for him? I don't have no problem with that. I'm not ass hungry. I'm not dick hungry. I'm not throat hungry. I done had enough of. Well, I ain't had enough dick. Lord, I didn't mean it like that. Oh Jesus, I haven't had a lot of dick in my life, but I've had plenty of ass or whatever. But I've had enough to know better. Okay, let me just leave it at that. God, I'll be just saying some stuff. Anywho, so I was very, very mindful of that, respectful. Like, of course, like it's no thing or whatever. But he's like, well, let me let you know in a couple of weeks. Let me let you know in a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks come by. I'm like, so that question I asked you about, like, oh, I'm gonna be busy that week. I have some projects. I'm like, okay, so at what point are we going to meet up? Because, mind you, I met this guy in September ish, and we were rolling into December trying to figure out like when this visit would happen. And so I don't remember, but it was September. It was September for sure. Was it September? Somewhere between September and October, right? So we're rolling close to December now, and I really haven't heard like much from him in terms of like, yo, like what we doing about what I asked you or whatever. And so I think he proposed like, okay, well, what about New Year's? Why don't we just look at New Year's? So at this point, y'all, I'm like, this is gonna be 3 or 4 months that has gone by at that particular time or whatever. Like, do I want to wait that long? You know what I'm saying? Because one of my biggest fears about a long distance situation, or even if it's, a local situation, one of my fears is that we waste a bunch of time talking, and on the phone you definitely can love and adore, and you can see social media and pictures and videos and FaceTime, but then that in-person interaction is just so different. It is just so different, and I'm very big on energy myself. So I'm like, the energy, like this conversation is great, we feel like we're doing good, but in person, those body mechanics, how y'all move with each other, maybe the way that they walk, maybe the mannerisms in their hands, maybe the voice sounds a little different. As men particularly, I probably think this is for women too, but I'll stick with men because that's what I know, firsthand, that imagery is such a powerful thing for us, right? And imagery can make or break an attraction in a situation. And so I'm like, I know all of these things can be disruptors. So I always am like, if it's a long distance situation, even if it's not long distance, I'm like, let's get in front of each other. Because first of all, I need to feel if your energy is good. I need to see if you got any black space around you, any black auras surround, black or red auras surrounding you. Because to me, that wouldn't be a good thing. And then also, I want you to check my temperature too and see if you're feeling it. Because maybe you'll be like, man, this man is fine, but baby, that Naomi Campbell walk just ain't gonna do it for me. You know what I mean? How you gonna be dicking me down walking like Naomi Campbell on the runway? I don't know. And that could be a very real thing. I could really see that happening. It hasn't happened yet, at least not that I know of, but I it could be a possibility. So I'm like, dang, do I want to wait that much time and then I get my feelings involved and I get invested? Like, do I really want to do that? So I was like, you know what? We're kind of coasting. I'm okay with that. Like, as long as we keep having this level of conversation and this type of consistency, I'm really okay in the situation. However, as we're nearing these conversations about, visiting or whatever, my social media comes up. That becomes a topic of conversation. Like, I'm very private. So, like, what are you gonna do with this social media thing? And I'm like, listen, I just got back into social media recently, and I don't see myself getting off of it anytime soon. And so that was something. And at that point, I was really ready to say, I think I did say it. I was like, listen, if this is a deal breaker, and he stopped me mid, discussion, and was like, yo, let's just have this conversation later because I don't want to have it right now. And then we, do something that we can't undo and stuff like that. And I was like, I mean, I'm just responding to what you're saying to me. But if you want to talk about it later, I'm more than open to talk about it later. So later really never came for that conversation. We just kind of moved on or whatever. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, if me being on social media is a problem, and then I'm thinking like, I don't know what content on there really is the problem for you, or if it's just all of it, or if you just are like, I don't want to end up on there. And we did end up having a conversation where he was like, I don't want you mentioning me on social media and stuff like that. And I was just kind of like, huh? Like, I can't even say your name on there. And he was like, well, no, somebody might, see me in there one day and realize. And I'm like, oh wow, like I'm blown away by this because I'm like, I don't know what impact that would have on you if somebody saw you in the chat and was like, "Oh my God, that's him." Like, I don't know what. I guess in my mind, I'm just trying to figure out like what about that would be so bad, and it's such an indirect thing. And I know there are people who are that nosy and bored that they will go over there and they might be like, "Well, let me try to jump in his DM and talk to him or something like that." But I mean, he wasn't really into social media anyway. Like, he was one of those, like, I'll just pop on for a second, wasn't really using his platforms either. So I was like, there's just something about that just, I don't know why that would be an issue, but I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I respect it. I grew up in a time where social media didn't exist at all. So it's not really far and in between for me that I can't live without social media. I jump in and then I'm in it and I'm on it. And then there are times where I'm like, I done forgot this shit even exists, until somebody send me something to be like, hey, look at this. So I was just like, okay, whatever. And then we got into a conversation one day about like household dynamics. And so I was like, okay. So part of his household dynamic is that he wanted a more traditional household value. And when I say, or yeah, roles and values. And when I say that, I mean the traditional heteronormative things, like the wife does this, the husband does this kind of thing, and I want to be, taken care of and things like that. um I was taken aback by that, and I paused just as I just did, um because in my mind, I I've always been the I don't want to say the sole provider, but I've always been the main provider in my situations because I've always made more money than my partner. So in a way, I've always taken care of my partner, and maybe they bought groceries or paid, the light bill. Every now and again, a portion of the rent, more often than not, I'm like, I ain't got all of it. And I'm like, yo, come on now. But I mean, it'll get paid for either way. So it caused me to really think, like, would it be that far fetched for me to just say to him like, yeah, that's fine, because it's something I feel like I do anyway. But then I just kept going back and forth with like, but what does that really mean though? Because I have to then contend with what is this man's lifestyle, and I don't know what that is. And so I could be committing to somebody who has expensive and extravagant spending and, very lavish, accoutrements throughout their life. And so I'm like, I don't want to say yes to that because I definitely felt like he was elevated in the way that he did things, and I love that about him. But I also thought to myself, like, can I sustain that for both of us? And is it not necessarily can I, because even if I couldn't with where I'm at currently or where I was at currently, I would figure it out. I always have. I'm always looking to double my money. So I was like, well, I guess I shouldn't really worry about that because where there's a will, there's a way. Okay. And where there's a dollar, there Michael will be to collect it. So I was like, I don't think that that's my big issue, but I guess the mentality around why you want me to do something like that is really what's bothering me. This is a whole internal dialogue, y'all, and I didn't even have that conversation or this deep of a conversation with him, but I just was like, yeah, no, I don't know if I can get with that for real. And not to say that he was a bad person because of it, but simply because I was like, yeah, I don't want to commit to that. Like that just seems a little too far out there for me. And I think for the first time in my adult life, I really felt like I was understanding um when masculine men say they don't want somebody who is more feminine because they don't want to have the pressure of treating that person like a woman, because truly if they wanted a woman they would go and get with one. And so for the first time in my life I made a direct connection to that feeling, because I was like, yeah, no, like I've dated women in my past or whatever, and it was wonderful. And I'm gonna do whatever I'm gonna do for my partner because I want to do it. But this expectation that you be treated like a lady is just not sitting with me. Like I don't mind you being feminine, but like I do want us to exist in that we're both men. You know what I mean? And if you're a bottom, that's fine with me. I got plenty of dick. So that's not my worry at all. But like in a space where I knew I was like thinking forward, like much forward, and the first time I'm thinking about marriage, the person that I marry is gonna have to be ready for whatever. You know what I mean? Because I definitely have had moments in my life where my Tootsie Cat was purring. And I was just like, well, wait a damn minute. Like, where did this come from? I done had a couple of tequila drinking nights where my little Tootsie Cat was purring. Thing might have been wet even. And I'm like, how did we get here? I just want to be touched on my inside parts. And so I really, no, seriously. So when I think about the long term, man, and I'm like, no, I can't just think and plot this for today. I have to plot this for forever because I am actually looking to be somebody's husband. And the evolution of where we go is going to have to be me jumping up and down on your pogo stick every now and again. And you can't be so like centered in what you feel right now that you're like, I'm not considering that. You know what I'm saying? And just with not just that, that's just one thing, but like with everything I'm like, yeah, no, I need somebody who's a little bit more open and who is a little bit more evolved in their thinking, and somebody that's not taking things off the shelf. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to say, listen, we can revisit that in a couple of years and see. To me, that's partnership, and that is really being, having a growth mindset in relationship. Is like, you know what? I hear what you're saying, and even though I'm not there right now, I feel like let's talk about it in 5 years. And if we together in 5 years, then I probably want to do whatever you want me to do. Like that's how my mindset is, and that's what I would want somebody else's to be. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that today or even tomorrow, but like, yo, I'm not about to rule that out. We might be able to come back to that in like a year or two if we're still together. I'll probably really have changed my mind at that point, because I do believe that love makes you non-conforming to some of those old ideologies you have. Again, like I said at the top of the hour, you go from the this strict list of things to being like, no, he has that something, or your lady or your person has that thing that makes you like, nah, the rest of that is not so important, like walking in the door at least, and we gonna get what we gonna get. And you curate something that is just as special, and catered to you and that person only, you know what I mean, a really specific kind of love. And so I need to be with somebody who is willing to, create that kind of dynamic with me. And what I got from him is that he was not willing. I don't want to say that he wasn't willing, because I do believe we had two conversations where he initially stated like, yeah, this, and then he was like, well, let's not make a decision, like. So I do believe that his wheels were spinning, so I don't want to say that he wasn't willing, but I'm going to say he didn't have the capacity to see beyond what he had already set for himself. And one thing I know about being young, because I was once 27, is that at that point, as a man, I feel like you are really becoming a fuller version of yourself. I feel like there's just some kind of mindset shift that happens as you approach 30. So he was right in that window where I feel like you are feeling more absolute about what you want. You know what I mean? Even if it's fleeting and it'll change in another 5 years or whatever. I do believe that he was on the cusp or the brink of having that mindset shift, and I didn't want in this moment for him to feel like he was settling for something that he felt very strongly about. Because as you approach that, you do feel very strongly like, I'm in my me. And this is, 30 is a badge of me, kind of situation. So, I was like, this conversation isn't really, I don't want to say that it's not worth having, but I was like, this conversation really is a mute point, because you kind of are solidifying in your mind what you believe that you want at this moment walking into 30. And I don't have any problems with that at all. I honestly think it's sexy. I think that was very sexy of him. Even if I did not like it, I understood that he was, asserting his position. And I can't be mad at nobody for that, because I would do the exact same thing. And so, like I said, the when your wants and your desires differ, there could be some great attributes. We would have been a beautiful bomb ass couple. I would have loved sitting next to him while he got his feet and his nails done, and I would have loved all the little stuff that he did. Like I like the, I like the little quirks and stuff. I look for those in my person. I would have loved every minute of that. We would have probably been amazing, had great sex. I mean, we would have just had something beautiful. But that was from the outside looking in. We looked like we go well together. Our pairing of success and, our drive for career, for the most part, was aligned. However, how we ran our household and the lifestyle of being partners with each other or husbands to each other, we just were not in alignment. And so um, we never did end up meeting up with each other. We never ended up meeting each other. New Year's came and gone, and the communication just kind of fell off. And there would be times he would just text me, or he'd be like, hey, I haven't heard from you. But in my mind, I was like, yeah, you haven't heard from me. And I honestly just am not pushing the issue. I feel like at this point we haven't nailed down moments for us to get together, coupled with the conversations we had. So for me, I was just like, let me just let this die organically. Um, and that's what I did. Every now and again he'll pop up and text me or something. Like he texted me recently to tell me like I saw this show and I thought of you. I wanted you to know it was back on or whatever. But no bad blood with him or whatever. Nothing. I don't have anything bad to say about him. Beautiful dude, beautiful person, honestly, inside and out. It was just one of those times where, things just weren't in alignment. And I think that's perfectly okay for me. So again, wants and desires can differ, and that can keep you from finding, the perfect partner, as they say, and completing the catch. So again, if I can leave you with something, is that there is no such thing as finding the perfect one. It's something that you create with the right one. Okay. And you can meet your person anywhere. I don't know where you will meet them. I don't know where I will meet mine, but you will meet them when it is time for you to meet them. But keep your eyes and your ears open, and hopefully, you're receptive to it finding you. So, this has been the Michael Experience Podcast. Thank y'all so much for listening. Y'all go on and love yourself first before you can love somebody else. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace and love, y'all. Bye.